Welcome to The Explainer. So today, we're diving straight into a really fascinating legal mystery documented by the author Su Feng. It centers entirely around the trial of a group known as the Chanyuan Celestials. Now, if you've been following this situation, you already know things have been pretty tense, but what we're looking at today, it's a bureaucratic puzzle that is just as confusing as it is captivating. Let's get right into it. Imagine this scenario for a second. A trial concludes. Exact prison sentences, like down to the specific months, and precise financial fines are handed down. But then, just days later, that exact same court turns around and says, it never happened. This wild paradox is the absolute core of our investigation today. We're going to follow the evidence chronologically to figure out exactly what the source claims actually went down here. All right, Section 1. The June 15 hearing, sentences at the Linshaw courts. So, our timeline kicks off on the morning of June 15, 2026 at exactly 11 a.m. According to our source, the Linshaw court allegedly held a hearing for several individuals. And the sheer level of detail here is honestly pretty striking. You really don't get these kinds of highly specific numbers from just a passing rumor. For instance, Hengde and Shenggong were reportedly handed sentences of 2 years and 8 months in prison, along with a very exact 25,000 yuan fine each. Then you have Shenxian, who got 2 years and 6 months, also with that 25,000 yuan fine. Xian and Zhouhe, they received suspended sentences. Meanwhile, Zhishi, who reportedly refused to admit any guilt, was left unsentenced. The absolute specificity here, the exact months, the precise monetary amounts, that is a crucial piece of evidence to keep in the back of your mind as this whole mystery unfolds. Moving on to Section 2, the missing documents, a strange interaction. Okay, so according to the text, family members of the accused were explicitly barred from even attending this trial. They were basically forced to wait outside. But when relatives finally opened the door to courtroom number 5 after the proceedings wrapped up, the judge reportedly complained, literally asking, "Why were you standing outside the door instead of coming in?" Our source really highlights what he views as a totally glaring absurdity here. I mean, the families were formally locked out, right? Yet the judge acts as if they just randomly chose to hang out in the hallway. From the author's perspective, this is a massive hint of a serious disconnect between the official narrative and the actual lived reality of these families. Which brings us right into Section 3, a sudden denial, the court's reversal. As the days ticked by, the families naturally tried to obtain the formal written judgments from the court. And things escalated really quickly here. Look at this timeline. June 15th. The hearing happens. Just 2 days later, on June 17th, the author, Su Feng, puts out a formal appeal, urging relatives to officially request those judgments. But then, on June 18th, relatives calling all the way from Vancouver to ask about the documents just hit a total brick wall. The court's response to them? No judgment has been made yet. Okay, so 5 days later, on June 23rd, they call again. The court's response is exactly the same. They just flat out deny that any judgment exists and completely refuse to say when one might even be issued. And here is the real crux of the puzzle. We've got this incredibly stark, super confusing contrast. On one hand, you have highly detailed sentences. We're talking specific years, specific months, exact 25,000 yuan fines tied to very specific people. But on the other hand, we have the court's official, totally unmoving stance. No judgment has been made yet. So how in the world do we reconcile this? How does a heavily detailed, seemingly factual event just evaporate into a vague institutional denial? I mean, why would a court allegedly withhold these public records? Well, to figure that out, we kind of have to look at the motivations operating behind the scenes. Let's explore that in Section 4. Su Feng's theory. Why withhold the records? Let's see how this all builds into the author's own hypothesis about police surveillance. Su Feng outlines this fascinating sequence of events. Step 1. Following arrests that started way back in July 2025, police reportedly demanded passwords from the detained Celestials to search their private home website for evidence. Step 2. In response to that, the author just went ahead and made the entire website completely open to the public, basically saying, look all you want. Step 3. The author is convinced that the police are now monitoring the site every single day. And that leads directly to Step 4, the real core of his theory. Authorities see that the group openly intends to use these written judgments as the foundation for public legal rebuttals. According to Su Feng, the authorities are basically terrified of this impending transparency. Which brings us directly to the actual charge they're facing, using superstition to undermine the implementation of the law. The author alleges that the authorities know, deep down, that this specific charge is just incredibly weak. They fear it simply won't survive any real factual or legal scrutiny once it's brought out into the open and rigorously debated. Xufeng theorizes that the authorities are now kind of scrambling because of this inherent weakness. By withholding the judgments, they're essentially buying time. He suggests they might even be trying to establish an entirely different, stronger charge behind closed doors, just to bring the whole matter to a close without losing face. It is, frankly, a really high-stakes game of legal maneuvering. Finally, we arrive at Section 5. The swan metaphor. Final thoughts. To tie all these seemingly disconnected pieces together, Xufeng summarizes this entire bureaucratic mess with a really striking metaphor. He says, no matter what charge you choose to establish, a white swan remains a white swan. You cannot blacken a white swan and turn it into a black crow. This right here is the emotional and logical core of his argument. He's suggesting that no matter how the institution maneuvers, the fundamental truth, at least as he sees it, cannot be altered just by changing some paperwork. You can hide the physical judgment, sure. You can even change the official charge. But he maintains that the truth remains the truth. Which leaves us here, facing a truly profound question. What happens to justice when the official record simply erases lived events? If a family physically experiences a trial, hears the exact months and fines read out loud, but the institution responsible for documenting that reality claims it literally never happened, where exactly does that leave us? It's a provocative thought about transparency, the immense power of judicial systems, and what citizens are supposed to do when a detailed reality is officially denied. I really hope this explainer helped you untangle the intricate layers of this legal puzzle. Keep analyzing the systems around you, keep questioning those official records, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.